Hi, my name is Steve Birch, and I would like to do a short introduction to Japanese pediatric acupuncture, including the system called Shonishin. I'm going to be doing a workshop soon, and in the workshop, I teach the specialized approaches of Japanese acupuncture in the treatment of children. And it's three basic treatment approaches which are learnable in a single weekend, so that by Monday, after the weekend, provided you have the tools, you can start to do the treatments. And as I hope to explain in my short introduction, um, if you're really interested in treating children, especially the babies and younger children, some aspects of what I'm teaching here are going to be very, very helpful for you to have the confidence and so give you the get-go to get started in treating children. Okay. So Shonishin, when treating children, there are certain things that are really important to understand, because you can't treat them the same way you do treating adults. For example, children have a very high rate of fear of needles and fear of treatment procedures. So we have to adjust what we're doing and how we're doing it. Otherwise, we just get intense resistance from the child, which can make treatment very difficult to do and perhaps even work against what we're trying to achieve with treatment. So one of the things that we can do is we can try to minimize our needling. And one of the characteristics of what the workshop I'll be teaching is we do a lot of non-inserted needling techniques, many of them extremely simple to learn and apply. Okay. Another thing is children are very, very sensitive. The younger they are, the more sensitive, which means they tend to respond very quickly to what we do. And because they respond very quickly and they're very sensitive, we really have to pay attention to our dosage. I think if you want to treat children, especially the younger children, and you haven't really figured out how to adjust your dosage, it can be very difficult. Okay, so it's important to not overtreat. So during the workshop, there'll be a strong focus on understanding about dosage, how to adjust your treatment dosage. And in terms of how to do diagnosis, some aspects of what we might do on an adult are difficult to do on children. They don't stay still, they don't answer your questions, they don't have the same response. So, um, to our investigations, so one of the things that we focus on is touch diagnosis. So we feel it's very important. Through touch, you understand the condition of the child, and through touch, you can monitor these very quick changes that start occurring in the child. You can feel things changing as you're doing the treatment. And this allows you to make more refined judgments about your treatment dosage, when to stop treatment. And so, also based upon the child's condition, their sensitivity, their symptoms, etc., we also have to find the optimal way of doing the treatment. And this is one of the things in the workshop. We'll give examples of how to do this and discuss different ways of combining things. So, when doing treatment on children, um, the root treatment is very important. The root treatment is about trying to enable the natural healing ability of the child to kick in to become more effective. Um, and in children, this natural healing ability tends to be stronger anyway. So it's really, if we can figure out how to tune into it and kickstart it, it'll help the child recover very quickly. So the root treatment is most important. And when treating children, therefore, it's important to have a good, thorough, clear model of our root treatment, and also and how to do it and manage the dosage of it, and also a really simple approach to doing branch treatments. Most children respond very well to doing a thorough root treatment and simple branch treatments. Whereas on an adult, it's often a bit more complicated than that. It takes more time to get the root treatment effect to build up. On a child, it can build up very quickly. So in the workshop that I teach, there are three basic parts. One is a system called Shonishin. Another one is a kind of simplified Japanese meridian therapy. And the third one is simple branch treatments using press tech needles, the new innovative press tech needles from Serin and so on. So Shonishin is a treatment system that began in Japan about 300 years ago. So it's been around for quite a while now. It applies very light stroking and tapping in fixed patterns. So here's an example where you see arrows, it's where you do stroking, where you see dots, it's where you do tapping. You don't do all of that. There's a fixed treatment that pretty much every child receives, and then you add additional stroking, additional tapping to start addressing the symptoms as part of the branch treatment. And the kind of tools that you use, the picture on the left here is from a museum collection in Osaka. Some of those tools look pretty scary, yes, and also, fortunately, some of them are a bit hard to get hold of. But there are typical tools that we might apply. For example, when I teach, those are the three tools that I usually recommend. I usually have packages of these that I sell, a starter kit, if you will. You can do your basic stroking and tapping with these, but if you manage, or if you're interested in, or you manage to get hold of these other tools, all of these are okay. And in fact, there's quite a wide range of different tools that you can use for stroking, different tools for tapping, and so on. And during the workshop, we do hands-on practice, demonstrate on you how to use the tools. You demonstrate back on me and show me how well are you understanding how to use those tools and so on. This is important because it's incredibly soft, incredibly light. And no, that top instrument in the right, that big round thing, sort of the shaped instrument in the top right-hand corner, not a gua sha tool. Gua sha is heavy stimulation. We're talking about incredibly soft, light touch. Okay. And you won't really understand it till it's demonstrated, then you get it. Okay. And meridian therapy um, is Kerakuchiru is the name of that in Japanese. This began in the 1930s. It's a kind of traditional acupuncture system. It's relatively simple and straightforward on adult patients, and it uses on adult patients. It started out using thin, shallowly inserted needles, very carefully applied. Over time, as a treatment system, meridian therapy has evolved over the last 70, 80 years or so. So that there's now, it's quite common to do non-inserted needling methods. For example, I practice and teach the Toyohari system, where for the meridian therapy root treatment, the needling technique is not inserted. Okay. And when for treating children, there was a tool was developed and modified for applying tonification, draining techniques on children, a spring-loaded teishin. Okay, and there's a modern version of this now available that's a lot more accessible, much less expensive, and so on, the Tsumoshin. And in the workshop, we teach how to use the Tsumoshin for tonifying points for the meridian therapy basic pattern. So in the workshop, you learn the core elements of how to do a simplified diagnosis, how to do a simplified treatment on children. Okay. And the tonification involves holding the instrument and doing a very slow, soft, carefully controlled up and down movement to give the tiniest increase in and release of pressure on the acupuncture point, which is enough for a child to create change. It sounds ridiculous, but it works like crazy. And then for symptomatic treatment, the simplest thing to use is these brilliant Sarin Pionex needles that were developed in the early 2000s. They have the really short ones, the smallest acupuncture needles in the world, 0.3 millimeters long, and the next one 0.6 millimeters long. You don't feel them. Kids don't feel them. You can use them on babies the day after birth if you want, at least the 0.3 and so on. So this is an easy tool to use. Of course, these are useful on adults, but they're also very helpful on kids for dealing with symptoms. Um, and so we teach how to use these, how to control their usage, regulate, and so on. Also, another thing that you can also see they come in these pre-sterilized packages that are very easy to apply. Also, there are some children, depending upon how well they're responding to what you're doing, or if they're older, you might need to insert needles a little bit. So we use really thin, shallowly inserted needling, but it has to be painless. So that's one of the key things we focus on is in the workshop is how to do painless insertion of needles. If they don't feel it, they're less distressed. And as I mentioned at the beginning, children easily get distressed with the treatments that we're doing. So we have to make sure we don't upset them. And of course, another thing that we can do is over the years, we figured out how to do the stroking and tapping, the Shonishin aspect of the treatment, the root treatment, how to do stroking and tapping as a home treatment. And this can enhance the effectiveness of what you're doing. So this is another feature that we'll be teaching in the workshop, how to do stroking and tapping, home treatment, and how to teach this to the parent and so on. And within the whole model, dose management is really, really important. Everything is about making sure that you don't overtreat because the reactions can be quite sudden if you overtreat. Whereas on an adult, you hear about it the next week usually. Um, anyway, so the workshop is hands-on practical in terms of I apply techniques, I demonstrate techniques, and some of the techniques you get a chance to demonstrate on me so that we can verify that you're doing it well, and I can help you understand how to adjust your contact and your touch, how to hold the tools and so on. And I've been doing treating children for more than 40 years. I wrote a book on pediatric acupuncture called Shonishin in 2011, the second edition published 5 years later. Um, this is a really useful, practical text. Out of all the books I've written, I'm most proud of that one because it's very practical. It's a lot of really juicy case histories in there. And as I said, in the workshop, you'll learn how to do a Shonishin, how to do meridian therapy, how to combine these two. Doing two root treatment systems on a child is very powerful medicine, and then adding simple branch treatments. And provided you have the tools, as I said, if you have the tools already on the weekend, the next day you can start working with them, treating kids. Try to make it practical. Well, I think I'm done here, and thank you very much. I hope you find that informative, and I also hope to see you in the workshop. Thank you.